Like everybody else, we all use social media, and I think most people are aware of some of the problems and some of the abusive issues that can take place on social media, because as we have all really seen the growth of and experienced, social media has become like a real life extension of your life. So in the past, when we didn't have social media, you would go to the pub and social venues, or you would write a book, or you would say something to camera, or there would be a news piece in a paper. Those were our formats of communication and hanging out together. Today we still have all that, but of course we have social media, we have the internet, we're all online. So, and today everyone's very familiar, and we've all adopted social media as simply another form of another platform in which we communicate to each other. We used to pick up the phone if we couldn't face to face with somebody, and having telephone calls was very, very normal, and lots of people did that. But today we know that telephone calls, they still happen, but an awful lot of that communication actually takes place via an email or a text message. And in our social lives, I suppose, and more of our social interaction is via text format, via text messaging and the messaging apps. And of course we have the audio visual media like TikTok, and which I think it's hard work looking at TikTok. It literally is. Whenever I look at TikTok, I try and stop it. And I want to search for some content. I really don't want content being blasted at me, and everything is very short, and maybe I'm displaying my age or something, I don't know, but the TikTok format for me is horrible. And a couple of times I've had to look at the terms and conditions that you are entering into via your conduct. So you download a TikTok app, and the simple fact that you use it, they claim that you are accepting their terms and conditions, and then TikTok will just suck all the data, all the information about you, and they'll suck it over so that they have a reference to it. Now, in actual fact, sometimes when social media platforms do that, all they're really doing is attaching an ID and a bit of data about you. I don't think that it's that sinister. It's literally, there's an electronic point of reference there, and we want to know who that belongs to so we can reconnect. It's not all bad, but apparently TikTok, like some other social media platforms, they suck all your data. Anyway, I'm digressing a little bit. Social media and this social media landscape that we are aware of and that we use, and some very well-known people will make reference to it and call it a hellscape. And social media, my opinion is it's a real hellscape. It's a real nightmare, really, if you are a person that is triggered by comments and you fall into drama easily, and you might have a gullible type of personality. Not that that's a bad thing. It could mean that you are just a normal person, and you don't expect people to be lying to you and subjecting you to propaganda all the time. And so you might believe a lot of the things that you see on social media. And also you might have forgotten that, you know, somebody behind a keyboard at home writing things, you know, it's very easy to be a bit of an idiot and say things that you don't really mean, but in the heat of the moment you might type something that, you know, isn't very good and you know, could be seen as offensive to varying degrees. But anyway, the point I'm making is social media is here and it's massive, and these days almost everybody is subject to it, sees it and uses it. And I believe it's really become another general form of communication. And often I've said in a business setting that when we look at communication, you have verbal communication, you have verbal and visual communication, you can sometimes just have visual communication or just verbal communication, and then you have text-based communication. For example, email, a text message. And both those two text forms of communication lend themselves to different needs, and they are better suited to, you know, different types of communication. So for example, if you're wanting to have a good chin wag with your friend, audio visual is very good so that you can, you know, see their response to what you're saying. So you've got the nuance and the additional subtext cues in their body language coming over. Or you might have a hangover, or you're not in the mood, or you feel like you don't look very good. So you might want your friend just on the phone. You know, and then you've actually got the nuances and the other information in their verbal dialogue. So, you know, that can be fine. Or you might not feel like that at all, so, you know, you just text away, and but you might be really tired and not in the mood at all, and so you can make your texting even shorter. Or you can be not text, which is also you know, a point of communication. It can mean that you're either asleep or you're busy or you simply don't want to be contacted. I don't think everybody wants to be in contact the whole time. I know I certainly don't. I find that if you are in contact the whole time, you can't actually get anything done. You can't get work done. You can't get anything done. When your phone beeps, I find that very distracting. This is why I always have everything on silent, actually, or I allow certain points of communication to come through because they're work related or important or something, and you need to have that. But anyway, back to this internet thing, social media thing. Social media has become once again it's a form of communication that we are aware of, and it can be like you are with people, you are right next to an individual. So there are many times where we have to consider that what's said on social media is like you've said it to a person or to their face. Although I suppose there is an argument that if you've, you know, said it on a text message, there is a context there in which you said it, and so, you know, you may not mean it, and often that's an argument used by many people that they, you know, they don't mean, you know, what they've said on social media, but then they might add that they mean it a little bit, or they are regretful. They said it in the heat of the moment. They wish they had deleted it. In fact, they probably have deleted it. But anyway, what we have on social media is another form of communication, another ability to communicate with people. And like with everything in life, too much of a good thing is bad. And also a great thing can always be used for evil. So we always have this, it does appear in life, anything, in a technology enabled life, it does always feel like something great always brings a negative with it. like the internet. What a fabulous thing that is. You can literally work, communicate, watch films, play games, communicate with your bank, communicate with your boss, your employees, your company, your holidays, your car, all from the internet, or with your smartphone or a computer. These things are brilliant. What an amazing, technology and thing that we have today. This is the great part about technology and the internet and social media and communication related technology. It's fabulous. But what it's also done, it has brought with it has enabled, for example, crime to take place, online crime, theft of identity, theft of money, and that sort of thing. And then we've got other forms of crime, and then we have other antisocial behavior, and then we have abuse, and then we have depraved things like very hardcore porn, and the list goes on, unfortunately. And I think it's safe to say that the internet's great, and technology, communication-based technology is fantastic, but it has brought with it a load of challenges. Challenges that we take for granted, and challenges we're not aware of, and then some challenges we are aware of that have a real nasty impact and are very harmful to people. And and we need to do something about that. Now, some big tech companies and some messaging social media providers, they are fully aware of this. They're fully aware of safeguarding and the need for safety and security. Absolutely, they know about it, and they are doing their best. Other companies are aware of it, but maybe cost is a big problem, and that they don't really have the resources or the money to tackle this problem. And so they try and position themselves as a technology provider, and they're not able to fully police these platforms that they generate. And that's a very valid point, and it's something that we have to think about. But I think what I'm focused on, or what I constantly see, are two things here. Number one, we have a group of people on planet Earth that will see online and the internet as an opportunity to perform criminal activity. It seems to be that all they will do is work out how they can cause trouble, steal your identity, steal your money, steal whatever else that they can from the internet, or cause trouble with it. I haven't mentioned propaganda because that's maybe another video, but it falls into the internet being used for things that really are unhelpful to society. So it's a massive negative. The positive, so for example, communicating, ease of communication, ease of work, is great, and that will just develop itself. We don't really have to worry about that. But what we do have to worry about is the negative side of the internet. So the very thing that has brought us this amazing ability to communicate and work has also brought us this hellscape environment of antisocial behavior and criminal activity. So how do we get past this? Now, the technology companies have tried very hard, and they do have solutions in place that are working, like, for example, two-factor authentication and technical systems that are more able to focus on identity and real connections. But I think most of the effort is around multi-factor authentication, and that is because it's very hard for a thief to steal 3 points of data. They can normally hack into one thing, possibly 2, but not 3 or 4. It gets very hard to get access to all your devices and all your points of communication points. So multi-factor authentication does work. And you've also got your biometrics there. That is a very solid way of identifying you, and this is a great help in the area of fraud and money theft and identity theft. And you know, anyone in this environment will be aware of how hard it is, and I bet you they're fully committed, and they really see the day-to-day trouble this causes, and we should all support that. But then we've got the, well, in addition, what we have then is the antisocial behaviour in the context of, you know, verbal harm. So, for example, young people on a social media platform that are receiving hate comments from their classmates or friends, or people that simply wish to be antisocial. And they are starting to allow these negative comments to pull them down and harm them. They're becoming scared of social media platforms because these social media platforms are becoming a place of harm. If you're a young person, if you remember when you were growing up, you were a young teenager, of course, you know, sticks and stones, you know, they did break your bones, and words hurt you as well. As you get a bit older, you know, you become a little bit hardened to that, and you're less interested anyway. But you know, young people using these social media platforms, it is a horror. It is difficult for them, because all you need is one person to, you know, to not think really about what they're saying, and for them to say things that, you know, I bet that they don't really mean them, but the impact that they have on the recipient can be terrible, you know, especially if it's about the way that they look, or it's a derogatory comment about, you know, an aspect of their personality or the way they look. So, you know, how do we get past this? Now, the one way is you're parented a certain way, and your parents simply educate you very deeply about this stuff, and perhaps remove these devices from your life. So, you know, it's literally like, I'm trying to find a good analogy. You know, like when you're young, your parents try and teach you to look left and right before you walk across the road. It's self-evident. I don't know if this is a good analogy, but I suppose social media is a bit like that. Some people's parents will, you know, grab their children and say, hey, look, the internet and social media is a little bit like this. It is a motorway, and if you're not looking carefully, something's going to hit you and harm you. So you have to look left and right, which means your behavior on the internet has to be this way because it protects you. And that is an effective way to educate people and to lower the problems with social media. Now, the other way is to mechanically control it. So a social media provider, you know, has to go to lengths to make sure that you only receive messages that do not harm you. Now, that's very difficult because you have to bring in a load of monitoring at that point. It's very labor intensive, and it's also very intrusive because you have to have something read and listen to everything that you do and say. And, you know, I suppose sometimes an element of that might work, but on the whole, I don't think nobody wants to be so heavily scrutinized and have absolutely everything, you know, looked at by a third party. So it's very difficult to police or work out what the best method is going forward. The great thing is that we have lots of awareness about it, and you know, children and older people and technology providers are aware of this antisocial behavior that comes along with the platform that they are offering. So we have awareness and people are thinking about it. But still, what do we do with this antisocial behavior that even though we are aware of it, there is an amount of education, there is some technical support, it still is happening and it's still harming people? What do we do about it? Now, I suppose you could go a little more draconian, a little more autocratic, and then make everybody that uses the internet have a driving license, and so you have to be given an identity number that is required to use the internet, and if you misbehave on the internet, it's more easier for you to be found, and so you have high levels of accountability there. But is that going too far? Is that overreach? Do you know what I've just said, especially in the area of young people and real harm that's taking place? I suppose these measures don't sound too bad at all, if at the same time they stop this harm taking place. But saying that, we're probably going too far, because I think big data and Big Brother is, I think we're in the realms of overreach now anyway. We certainly need to be coming back a bit from that. Or maybe it's something that we have to further develop. I don't want to rule that out right now, and I don't think we should. The internet is evolving, we are evolving with it, and society is evolving. Actually, I've just said something there that opens up another topic. But coming back to behavior on the internet and what should we do? We know certainly there are some problems. There is some antisocial behavioral problems on the internet, and we know harm is taking place verbally, mentally, and criminal activity like theft and identity. So we need to think about this a bit more, and education is always going to help, and I'm sure that further education will develop, and there will be more education for young people, for people that find themselves having to deal with these things a lot more than older people. For example, someone like me, I think I probably have a good awareness of what it is, so I less see these things, and I'm less subject to them. And so someone like me doesn't really need this sort of thing explaining. I've got it anyway. But that's me, and I'm older, and this is sort of what I'm close to anyway, so it's not a problem. But what I am aware of is, for young people, it's not like that. The internet and social media is another form of communication, just like when they go to school and hang out with their friends. It's a big deal. It's part of their lives, and they want to get it right, and they're very young, and they don't know. They haven't got, and they haven't developed the social skills yet to deal with social media. And I think that's a nice place to sort of end right now for this video. Once again, bringing the awareness to the challenges on the internet are big and real, and it is something that we have to be fully aware of. And as parents and as older people, we have a responsibility to educate younger people and tell younger people about the possible problems that do exist. And we as a society need to come to terms with what the internet really is, and what the pitfalls are and where they are. Education is and understanding is the way forward. Some people are going to get it, and they won't really have a problem with it, but lots of other people will not get it, and they will become victims and have a problem with it. And that's what we need high levels of awareness around. Anyway, At that, I can feel my throat. I've been chatting too much today. So I'm going to say ciao for now, and I do hope everybody is well.